The average 401k balance for someone in their 60s is about $577,000. But the median, the number that actually reflects what most people have, is closer to $187,000. That's a huge gap. And honestly, neither number tells you whether you're actually ready to retire. Here's why. That average gets pulled way up by a small number of very large accounts. So if your balance is somewhere in between those two figures, or even below the median, you're far more normal than the headlines would have you believe. In fact, a Western and Southern Financial Group survey found that about half of all baby boomers say they don't feel confident that their savings is going to be enough to get them through retirement. So if you've looked at your 401k statement and you felt that knot in your stomach, you're not alone. But before you let that anxiety take over, let me show you why your 401k balance by itself doesn't come close to telling the full story. By the way, my name is Patrick Shope, and I started Shope & Associates specifically to help people work through retirement complexities just like this. So let's get into it. Your 401k piece is one piece of a much bigger puzzle. And when you stare at that one piece in isolation, you're going to get a distorted view of where you actually stand. Think about Social Security. For many retirees, it typically replaces somewhere between 30 and 40% of pre-retirement income. According to the Social Security Administration, the average individual benefit, as of 2026 anyway, is about $2,071 per month. But for married couples where both spouses receive benefits, the administration estimates an average of about $3,208 per month combined. That's close to $38,500 That's real, guaranteed income that shows up nowhere on your 401k statement. So if you were a higher earning throughout your career, your benefit is likely above that average. Then there's other savings. A lot of people have IRAs, Roth IRAs, brokerage accounts, maybe even some regular savings accounts that sit completely outside of the 401k. When you actually tally everything up, the full picture often looks quite different from that single number. And your home, if you own it, especially with the mortgage paid off, that's both a lower monthly expense and a genuine asset. In fact, U.S. Census data shows that about 79% of Americans over age 60 are homeowners. You may never plan to sell, but it's still part of your financial foundation, whether through downsizing someday or simply the fact that you don't have rent to pay. So when you layer in Social Security or other savings, maybe even the home equity on top of your 401k, the picture tends to look more complete than what that one balance suggests on your 401k statement. So now let's say you've considered all that and you still feel like you're behind. What actually moves the needle at this stage? Because if you're in your 60s, you can't go back to 30 and start over. So let's focus on what you can control right now. One of the biggest financial levers many people in their 60s have is when they choose to start collecting Social Security. And I want to spend a little extra time here because this decision can easily make a difference. If you claim at 62, which is the earliest you can, you're locking in roughly 30% permanent reduction compared to waiting until your full retirement age of 67. That's not a temporary reduction. That lower amount is what you're going to receive for the rest of your life, adjusted for inflation each year, but permanently reduced from what it could have been. On the other hand, according to the Social Security Administration, every year you delay past 67 up to age 70, your benefit grows by about 8% per year. So someone whose full retirement age benefit is $2,500 a month could see that climb to around $3,100 a month just waiting 3 additional years. Multiply that difference over 20 to 25 years of retirement, you start to see how significant this becomes. Now, I want to be clear about something. Delaying doesn't always make sense for everyone. If your health isn't great, or if you need the income to avoid taking on debt or draining your portfolio too quickly, claiming earlier might not be the right call. There's also the question of what happens to your investments while you wait. Because if you're pulling heavily from your portfolio to bridge that gap, there's an opportunity cost there too. The point is, this is not a rule of thumb decision. It's one that deserves real analysis based on your specific situation. Beyond Social Security, if you're still working, capturing your full employer match in your 401k is something that many people try to prioritize. And for good reason. If you're between 60 and 63, under the Secure 2.0 Act, there's what's called a super catch-up provision that lets you contribute up to $35,750 in 2026. That's worth knowing about. But really, the match is where the immediate immediate value is. And then there's something that sounds almost too simple, but it's one of the more valuable things you can do. Figure out what you actually need to spend. A lot of people assume they need to replace their entire salary. That's not true. But in retirement, think about this. Payroll taxes go away, commuting costs disappear, you're no longer contributing to a 401k, and the spending patterns naturally shift. So for many people, the real number lands around 70 to 80% of working income. Not always, but usually lands somewhere between 70 and 80%. And a meaningful portion of that may already be covered by Social Security. So now let me flip this around. What if you're on the other end of the spectrum? What if your balance is above average? Let's say that it's $800,000 or more. That's a great position to be in, but it comes with its own challenges. And a lot of people don't think about it until it's way too late. A large traditional 401k means you potentially have a large future tax bill sitting inside that account. Remember, the IRS is a partner on those accounts. Every dollar in there has never been taxed, and the IRS may eventually collect through something we call required minimum distributions, or RMDs. These are forced withdrawals that start at age 73, 75, depending on your birth year. The years between when you retire and when RMDs begin, that window is what a lot of planners call a valuable window for Roth conversions. You can strategically move money from the pre-tax accounts into the Roth accounts at lower tax rates before the government actually forces you to start taking it out and potentially paying higher rates of taxes. Remember, the higher your income, the more taxes that you're going to pay as they move through the tax brackets. Done well, this could potentially save money on taxes. Done too aggressively, and it can backfire and cost you more than doing nothing. It's a balancing act that needs to be revisited every year, year by year. And this is definitely a conversation you want to have with your financial advisor or your tax professional to see what makes sense for your situation. Now, here's what ties all this together. Whether you feel behind or you feel ahead, the most valuable thing that you can do right now is get very specific about your own numbers. Comparing yourself to averages isn't particularly useful. Averages don't retire. You do. What matters is your income, your expenses, your Social Security, your savings, and how all these pieces, they work together. You might be in better shape than you think, or you might need to make some adjustments. Either way, knowing beats guessing. And guessing is what many people do until they finally sit down and they map it all out. I'd love to hear from you. What's the one number you're most uncertain about? Is it your spending in retirement, your Social Security benefit, or your total savings picture? Drop it in the comments. I try to read every single one, and it helps me to know what topics to cover next. Again, we produce these every single week. And if you'd like to see how we help our clients work through these kinds of decisions, you can find us at ShopeAssociates.com. I'd love to hear from you.